Not all abuse is loud, right? Some don't yell, they don't make threats. It's very covert. There's nothing you can point to and say, that's it, that's right there, that's the abuse. I want to cover 5 of the most covert abuse tactics that you might not even realize are happening. And some of this really quiet stuff is incredibly damaging, very subtle, very hard to explain, and easy to brush off in the moment that it's happening, but it's abuse. My name is Lisa Sonni. I'm a certified relationship coach. I'm an author of 5 books, and I specialize specifically in toxic and abusive relationships, and even more specifically, in the abuse tactics of men. I work with women to help break trauma bonds, help get them to exit these relationships, see what's really happening, and rebuild after they leave these relationships. Hit subscribe so you don't miss more videos like this. Now, I'm going to take you through of these 5 highly covert abuse tactics. The first one is plausible deniability, and this one irks me so deeply because it happens to so many women. This is where he doesn't really say anything directly, right? It sort of comes through tone or timing or a look or some kind of pause, but you feel the hit. The words can be vague, but that doesn't matter because there's an implication kind of sitting under what he says. And you usually pick up on it immediately, but you might not be able to name it. But if you bring it up, he'll deny it, right? I didn't say that. And that hits you really hard. You try to explain what you heard and sort of bring the conversation back to reality, but it turns into you proving something that wasn't really said cleanly, right? You feel yourself reaching for words to sort of explain a feeling, and he stays on a technicality of some kind. A really great example of how they do this is getting you to focus on intent, or maybe even more specifically, alleged intent instead of impact, because that gives him the perfect plausible deniability, right? Okay, you're hurt, but I didn't mean to hurt you. And that sounds believable because you'd rather believe that he's not doing it on purpose when the truth is, and I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, abuse is a choice. Abuse doesn't happen by accident. He's not lying by mistake. Plausible deniability gives him a phenomenal cover. Now, the next tactic is tone policing, and this one is actually really easy because the truth is, in the world, in society, in this friggin' patriarchy that we all live in, tone policing of women is incredibly common. So this happening in your relationship is just what you'd expect. You bring up something that matters to you, and he doesn't stay with what you actually said. He's going to talk about your tone. He'll tell you that you had an attitude when you didn't. He'll tell you that, your tone is the problem here. I don't like the way you said that to me. Your delivery is the issue. So then you start explaining your intention. You start softening your words and changing what you're saying and going, okay, wait, let me try this again. Let me be more careful. Let me choose different words. Let me bring this up at a different time, whatever, right? Because suddenly you're not calm. Suddenly you're irrational. You're being accused of something and you feel defensive. But what's happening is the original point is completely lost. And now you're adjusting yourself. What you're not doing is being heard. And you feel like you did something wrong. So you change yourself when you didn't need to. The truth is, more often than not, if another man approached him and said exactly what you said in the same tone and the same words, he wouldn't see it as problematic. He sees it problematic because you said it. Because abusers are typically misogynists. And when a woman is speaking to a misogynist, there's no right way to say it because the truth is you should just be quiet and compliant, like they like their women. Now, the third one I like to call strategic ambiguity, right? He keeps things just a little bit unclear, just unclear enough, right? Plans might feel almost set, but not quite. Conversations feel like they're getting somewhere, but then, it gets derailed really quickly. You hear what you want to hear, probably because it's close enough, and our brains are always trying to protect us. But do you see how there's just always a little bit of wiggle room for him to say, you didn't understand, you misheard, you're too sensitive, you didn't get it. But it's enough to keep you hopeful, right? Not enough for you to actually hold him to anything. You try to pin him down, but he stays vague. Maybe we'll make plans this weekend. Yeah, for sure. Maybe we'll do this. I think. I don't know. We'll see. A lot of things like that. But what ends up happening, because you've already built this trust and dependency, is that our brains start to fill in the gaps. And then we feel let down when he doesn't follow through. And he has, in fact, plausible deniability of, but I never said, right? Because he remained strategically ambiguous. You can never call him out because nothing was specifically promised. That's why he uses this silly wordplay. The goal is not always to make you believe something specific, right? It's to wear down your certainty. He wants you to hesitate before you speak. He wants you to question what you actually picked up on. It's going to slow down your reactions. It's going to keep you all stuck in your head trying to figure things out. Well, then you double check what you actually thought. You try to get your facts very clear and very right. You only talk to him when you could prove something, and you're looking for confirmation outside yourself, which teaches you to look outside yourself for validation. And as I said, you trust him, and that often becomes your new source of reality. The fourth way is called moving the goalposts. I always feel like this one, an example that I use a lot is an abusive man will tell you to jump 3 feet. And then when you jump 3 feet, he'll tell you he never told you to jump, or he didn't say 3 feet, he said 5 feet or 2 feet, right? He'll always change something. He will always move the goalposts. And the thing is, you're putting so much effort into getting it right. He says that you're using the wrong words, so you change your words. He says that your tone is off, so you adjust your tone. He says that you can't bring it up to him on a weekday, so you bring it up on the weekend. But nothing ever matters. Nothing is ever right because he's moving the goalposts, right? Something new comes up, a different issue, a different complaint. So you shift again and you try to meet that new one, and lo and behold, it moves again. You can never land anywhere specific. It is so unstable to be in a relationship like that, but yet you keep working to make it right. So you stay in motion. You're constantly trying to catch up to this next goalpost, and you are actually in a double bind. You are in an abusive, toxic relationship where the goalposts keep changing. The standards are unmeetable. It reminds me so much of that game from Friends called Bamboozled, where Joey, Ross, and Chandler were playing that game, and it felt like none of them understood the rules because the rules were constantly changing. Being in a relationship with a man like this, you're being bamboozled. The final covert tactic I'm going to share today is the one where he uses silence to punish you. This is the guy who pulls back, but he doesn't say much, right? The energy completely changes. He shortens what he says. His responses are really cold and quick. Maybe he's not giving you eye contact anymore. There's distance between you, right? But there's no explanation. It's just the silent treatment. And when an abusive man does that, particularly if you have an anxious attachment, but not only that, you feel it in your body right away and you're immediately tense. You feel it in your chest. You're scanning for what you did. And women are conditioned to fix and forgive and caretake and overfunction. So here you are reaching out, adjusting yourself, changing your words, trying to initiate some kind of repair to get back in his good graces. But the silence will stay right where it is. It'll stay in place until you do what he expects you to do, which is chase and fix it. And when you do, often then, you're back into his good graces, right? And then you can breathe again. Your nervous system feels better now. Of course, that's just temporary. It feels better until it feels worse again because that's the cycle of an abusive relationship. Not all abusers use all of these tactics, but these ones are really covert, and so many women are experiencing this and they have no idea. Now, inside you, this builds this system where you start watching everything more closely and you're reading tone and expression and managing him. You're replaying interactions, you're explaining yourself so much more, and you're trying to get ahead of it. So the second you see him, whether it's waking up in the morning, when he comes home from work, on a weekend, you're immediately scanning. You're immediately looking at his eyes and his body language. Your nervous system is shot. And you can't move as cleanly in your own decisions when you're second guessing yourself and always looking for validation outside of yourself. This is conditioning to get you to not even realize how you feel and not trust yourself. And those are the moments when these guys know they have you. They want to dominate you, control you, and have power over you. And these are amazing tactics for them to use. So I want women to see what these guys are doing so that you can see through it and get out of relationships like this. The truth is, most of these moves don't really stand on their own, right? These guys don't use one tactic. They build over time, they intermittently use them, and obviously they're kind to you sometimes. But at all of these confusing things, they create this kind of internal noise, and then you lose yourself in it. You stay focused on each moment, especially when they're using lots of different tactics all at the same time. You really are not seeing the pattern because you focus on this was plausible deniability and this is moving the goalposts and it's actually just a system of psychological abuse and emotional abuse. But when you try to solve each little interaction, it keeps you engaged, right? You stay in it. This is how it holds. So instead of looking at just one conversation, one incident, one tactic, you need to be taking a step back and looking at the pattern, not one thing. Look at how this all stacks up. Look what repeats. What keeps happening? What do you keep bringing up that never seems to change? Really check in with your body. How do you feel after you interact with him? Do you feel drained, confused, exhausted, or do you feel happy? Now, the trick here is that sometimes you feel relief and happy when he's being kind, and when he's being abusive and awful and cruel and confusing and using any of these covert tactics, I'm sure you feel awful. But notice even that there's always this inconsistency. You never really know who you're dealing with. This pattern is going to tell you more than any single moment that you're experiencing. So if you're always doubting yourself, just stop trying to solve each moment and really stay with the pattern. Subscribe if you're ready to do the actual work. You can work with me one-on-one, join my group coaching programs, or come into my community called She Rises Collective. Hit subscribe if you're ready to rebuild your self-trust and get the hell out of this cycle. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.